Dear brothers, good morning, boys. Big Friday morning. It's been a great week. Hopefully we're coming into a great weekend here. I hope all of you have had a blessed week, gotten your work done, gotten your workouts in, had a little bit of fellowship. I've just, one of my prayers that I have for all of you, just like I have for myself, is to keep on pushing, even on the days I don't want to, or the days that I'm tired, or the days that it just doesn't feel great. And, my prayer for all of you is that in those moments you find the ability to kind of keep pushing through. Because outside of us being able to do that, we're never going to be able to be that brotherhood of men that actually makes a difference in the world. Because every time we have some kind of difficulty, we fall apart. And so my prayer is always for all of you, just as it is for myself, to be steadfast in those moments and to know that the pursuit of being a heroic man requires those moments. And in those moments, we go, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to compete against this moment. And that's what's going to make me a better man and help the world. So I pray that all of you had that this week. This morning, I want to talk about something that's been on my heart a little bit recently, which is this idea that whenever we have something that we struggle with, call it an addiction, call it any difficulty that we cannot seem to get rid of. I think addiction is probably the easiest one to wrestle with here. And I've thought about this in the sense that friends and I have had some conversations recently about family members of theirs that are alcoholics. I've had family members who have been in that same boat. I've had friends who have been in that same boat. And so alcoholism is one of those examples. Addiction to porn is another example. Even addiction to work, in theory, could be thrown in there, but any kind of addiction, something that you feel like you can't live without. And one of the things that happens, this is specifically true with Bible-believing Christians or people that actually have doctrine that they follow, is that they think if they ask for it to be taken away from them, God, please, I don't want to be an alcoholic anymore. Take it away from me. Take it away from me. Take it away from me. They think that that is enough. That just admitting that there is a problem and, asking for it to be taken away, even if it's sincere, is enough for them to be relieved of their addiction. And what I have found is that tends just not to be true. I think that what we should look at is, yes, we should ask God for help and guidance. We should ask God to quell our anxiety. I do believe that we are not capable of handling fear, anxiousness alone. 100%. However, when we talk about some kind of addiction that we have, something that we're trying to give up, and it doesn't have to be, we don't have to get to the point of this being like something God-forsaken in terms of being like at the end of being an alcoholic or, being so addicted to drugs that you're on the fritz of death. It might just be something that you don't like that you do every day. I've had a bunch of friends that maybe have dipped their whole lives and they were trying to stop. I've had friends who they had some kind of, I'll use the simple habit of they click the snooze button all the time. They were like, I'm just tired of clicking the snooze button. And they would literally be like, they would go and they would pray that they would stop hitting the snooze button. And what I have found is that most men who use this tactic, where they wish it away or they pray it away, are missing their end of the bargain. It essentially just turns into them procrastinating actually solving the problem that they're dealing with. And so what I mean by that is when we pray for something to be taken away, or to be removed in our lives, or we're hoping that it'll just disappear. We're forgetting the fact that we have to give it up. We have a stake in this game. This is not a one-way street where we ask for something and instantly we receive it. Does that happen on occasion? Sure. But that's not how our relationship should be with God, and it's not how our how our world should be here on earth. It doesn't follow logic that we can just get things for nothing. It's just nothing in the world works that way. You want to get stronger? You have to lift weights. You don't want to lose weight? You've got to cut your calories down. You want to improve your marriage? You have to work on your marriage. And so when it comes to stuff that we struggle with or that we are addicted to in some capacity, yes, I do believe that we should pray for help and guidance in doing that. I think we should implore the help of our friends to be involved in it. However, we have to be the person who gives it up. I'll use this example. We're talking about alcoholism. It's an easy one for us to hit on. You continue to ask for help with alcohol abuse. Or maybe you're just trying to drink a little bit less during the week. And yet, you have booze in the house still. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You've been asking to give it up, and yet you've allowed yourself access to it in your own home because you really don't actually want to give it up. And so, because you don't want to give it up, you continue to drink. It's a pretty simple idea. Now, maybe the other option is that you're an alcoholic, and every time that you go play or you like to drink, you go play golf with your buddies. Every time you guys are done, you go to the bar after and you have 2-3 drinks, might turn into 4 or 5 drinks. Every time you go play. And you'd really like to stop that. And you've been praying that you can stop doing that. You've been hoping like, hey, I have the ability to do this. Meanwhile, when you go out and do that, you allow your buddies to peer pressure you into having drinks with them. You're trying to give up alcohol. Meanwhile, you're still setting yourself up for failure because you don't have your friends involved in you making good decisions. And as an aside, if you have friends who do not support your goals in one of these things, get rid of those fucking friends. I don't mean to be mean about that this morning, but that is the absolute truth. It amazes me the amount of men who have friends who do not care about their goals if it doesn't align with their personal preferences. Drinking being an easy one. If I go out somewhere and I'm like, hey, can I just have a Diet Coke? Hey, can I have a sparkling water or whatever? If one of my friends goes, dude, what's wrong with you? Fucking drink, bro. What do you do? What do you think? You're better than us or something? That friend's out. Or at the very least, we're going to have a conversation about the fact that they can't support that I'm trying to make a healthy change in my life. I have had people like that in my own life in the past. And guess what? They're no longer in my life. Your friend should support everything you are doing when it comes to handling difficulties or addictions in your own life. It's as simple as that. So I'll return to the point that you have to be the one willing to give this up. You have to be the one who makes actionable steps. Get alcohol out of your house. Implore your friends to become involved in your life and be like, hey, I really want to stop drinking or I want to limit my drinking. Will you be a reliability partner for me? Implore your wife, your church body, any of those people. Find people that are going to support you in those endeavors because you are the one who has to take the temptation out of your life or at least remove its opportunities to affect you because it's no different than working a muscle and making it stronger. It takes reps and time under tension. It takes appropriate time under tension in order for you to actually be able to handle those things. So when the temptation arrives, in that moment, you have to go, hey, I have to get away from this situation. There may be, I'll continue to use alcohol as my example, where you're like, hey, we're just not going to go out for the next little while. We're going to take a couple of weeks, not go out to eat at certain places, or we're not going to go to the bars for a couple of weeks just so that I can remove this from my life because it's negatively impacting what I'm trying to do as a man. At the end of the day, fellas, that's what matters ultimately the most is do the addictions you have, do the difficulties you have in life, are they thwarting you from becoming the man you're supposed to be? Most of the time, yeah, they are. That's why they're called addictions, right? You can be addicted to anything, literally anything. You might be addicted to the gym. I have had to work with guys where I'm like, hey, dude, the gym can no longer be what it is to you because your relationship with it is almost in a, worshiping kind of way. You are obsessed to the point of, paralysis with what you're doing. That's also unacceptable. Worship falls at God's feet. End of story. The minute that you start worshiping other things, which guess what? All of us worship something. Even people that don't believe in God, guess what? They still worship something. And for pretty much everyone that does that, it's a really crummy road because nothing means nothing. There is nothing in their lives. And so they have to find something that gives their life purpose. And then they realize that that's super hollow. So understand that in light of the fact that we worship everything, your addictions are something you worship and they shouldn't be. That's the kind of stuff you bring to the cross and say, I don't want to worship this anymore. And God might say, okay, sounds good. Here's your opportunities to not worship this anymore. Now go ahead and act. Now is your time to handle that. Are you going to curse me for it? Or are you going to be the one who shows up and removes the temptation in your life? I understand this deeply in my own life with my own addictions when I couldn't get rid of porn or I couldn't get rid of drinking, especially when I was in college. I loved those things. I wanted them. I yearned for them. Lying can be another addiction that people have, one that I used to struggle with immensely. And the only way that I got rid of those things is I didn't make myself feel guilty about them. Like, oh, I should feel this deep sense of shame. You should feel ashamed when you do things you're not supposed to do. But what changed my life completely is when I started looking at those things as being below what the heroic man is. I talk about the heroic man on here all the time. And I mean that. The man, that highest level of virtue and excellence, as close to divinity, as close to God as we can get. We're never going to get there. We're mortal. We're sinful. We don't have that ability to reach perfection. But to seek it is what makes life worthwhile. It's what makes blessings happen in the world. And so when you think of your addictions and what have you, you have to have some skin in that game and realize that when you do have skin in that game, that is what makes you actually able to make a change. You don't just get to ask for help and all of a sudden the world becomes easy. That's what weak people do. That's what this young generation loves to do, where they're like, oh no, please, handouts. I want the participation trophy. Men today, listen to me, gentlemen, we cannot be okay with participation trophies in our own lives. You don't just get a trophy because you decided that, I asked God to help me, stop drinking. You don't get an award for that. You're like, oh, well, I took a day off. I get an award, right? Now I can go back. No, that's not how this stuff works. You have to be in the arena at all times. If you're trying to get rid of an addiction in your life, guess what? You need to remove its ability to put pressure on your life. It is very hard for people to quit things. Extremely hard. I understand this full well myself. I struggled with it immensely. I still struggle with it. However, I know that if I separate it from my environment, it's one of the ways that it impacts my life. And then guess what happens? Say you do what I was talking about earlier. Maybe you're struggling drinking a lot. And all you do is for the next 2-3 weeks, you limit yourself to one night out a week. You employ your buddies, you employ your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend, whatever. Hey, 2 drinks, that's my max, and I want you to hold me to it. Again, if they don't support you in that, fucking get rid of them. But do that for 2 or 3 weeks. I will bet anything that you will feel better. You'll feel healthier. You'll feel stronger. You'll be more focused with work. You won't be as antsy. And then you'll go, oh man, I'm shocked at how good I feel. And then you have to continue to add that into your lifestyle. Once you start to feel what it's like to not feel like crap, to not feel that itch to have to do something immensely, you'd be amazed at how good you feel. And that's a constant process of battle. You're constantly going to have skin in that game because it can be easy to fall back into that, to have a relapse, if you will. But no matter what, you have to be the one who gives up that temptation. You have to be the one that looks at that and goes, this is affecting my life negatively. I have to make a change. I'm going to bring my friends in. I'm going to continue to pray about it. I'm not separating these things. I still wholeheartedly believe that you need to take your problems and go, God, I'm struggling with this. This is tough for me. I need help. I need guidance. What do you think? Talk to him like you would talk to your friends. It's one of the best lessons I ever learned. I don't talk to God like he's some invisible figure that's just not there. I talk to him as if he's sitting in the chair next to me, because in my heart of hearts, I believe he is. Hey, God, I'm really struggling with alcohol right now. This is a problem in my life. I see how it's impacting my marriage, my children, my friends. I got to give this up. I know that I need to. And then listen. Pay attention to things in your life. But that doesn't mean that God just takes it and snaps his fingers and it disappears. You're going to have opportunities. I have had that happen in my life more than once, where I say, God, I need to give this up. And then a few hours later, I have somebody go, hey man, you want to go to the bar? I'm like, in my mind, oh man, I would love to go to the bar right now. Beer, some whiskey sounds incredible right now. And then I think to myself what I prayed about earlier. And I go, what an opportunity this might be to exercise a little self-control, to manage my temptation. And guess what? I failed at that immensely for a long time. But I always started recognizing the opportunity that was being presented to me to act on what I was praying for. And as time went on, I was like, hey, you know what? Not tonight, man. Do you want to come over to the house? Why don't we go do something else? And I started swapping out some of those things. I took that temptation and said no. And let me tell you something, fellas. You will never feel more powerful, more fulfilled than when you say no to temptations and addictions in your life. You may enjoy the moment, the highs that you get from whatever that addiction is. You may love it, like, oh, I need it. But then you need more of it and more of it, because it's not actually fulfilling. It's filling a void in your life that when you do it, it gets filled for a moment and then it just disappears and that hole is still there. Because that is where your self-control needs to be. You need to fill that with, I can stop and start this at any given time. I am in control of this. I have put my anxiety of it. I've put my request to God that I'm struggling with this. And he goes, all right, cool. You know what you got to do? Remove the things in your life. I'm not just going to fix things for you. That's not how this works. You have to actually work. You have to be a part of this process. So fellas, today, I want you to understand that. I know I've probably beat a dead horse today. It happens. I'm long-winded. I get it. Bring your difficulties before the cross. But when you do that, understand that you are responsible for giving up that temptation in your life. Change how you go out for a couple of weeks. If you're addicted to porn, and that is a big part of your life, for a day, go, hey, all my computers are off. I'm going to be out of the house. I'm going to be with people all day. I have to get this out of my life. And understand that when you do it, I don't want you to feel ashamed of it or guilty of it. You should have some sense of that, but don't make that so high that you're like, I'm just unredeemable. What you should say is, this is below me. This is not helping my marriage. This is not helping my relationships. This is not helping me date women. This is not going to help my children. Would I be proud if my children saw me doing this? The answer is no. Okay, out. You have the ability to do those things. You do need to pray about them. You do need to ask for help. But most importantly, you have to be the one that gets rid of those temptations in your life and figures out those difficulties and makes it where you're giving up those opportunities to do things that you know are less than the man that you want to be. That was long-winded. I know. I'm going to leave it at that. I love you all very much. Let's continue to grow as brothers. If you have friends, if you are struggling with addiction or difficulty, or you can't get rid of porn or drugs or booze or whatever it is, put it to the cross. Get your friends involved. I'm telling you, when I have struggled with things, I call my buddies and I say, hey, I need accountability on this. You know that I want to be a better man. I need you right now. And guess what? Your good buddies are there, right? They're those 2 a.m. buddies that you can call. And the minute you call, they've got their tactical gear on and they're coming. They're like, hey, brother, I got you. I'm here. Let's do it. What do we got? Whose car are we taking? Understand that that's what you need. Implore your friends to get involved. And if you don't have those kind of friends or they don't want to help, guess what? Rude awakening, it's time to find some new friends. All right, I'm out. I love you all. God bless. Be strong. Let's get after it. Have a wonderful Friday. Let's have a great weekend. See you, boys.